Hello, dear friends. Yesterday it was an official confirmation from the banks, and today is a reflection, not exempt from many current news. Opinion piece: Chronicle of a death foretold. The economy is an accident foretold. Everyone knew it, but no one took action. People are suffering from the economic crisis. This period of time is chaotic and uncomfortable. The biggest threat comes from infighting. YouTube fills with critical 9/11 videos. Treasury warns of default in October. Central banks are losing the narrative. All insiders talking code all the time. They admit it has delivered some disinformation. Gold price fall back below $1,800. The global elite are acquiring remote bankers. Club of Rome predicted global collapse by 2020. A strange declaration of independence from Marbella, Spain. Popo volcano erupts and spews incandescent smoke. Let's start. Everyone knew what was going to happen, but there was a complicit silence because no one dared to say it clearly or to stop it. Perhaps because the solution went against many personal interests. The interpretation of the novel by the brilliant García Márquez helps us to understand the current situation. This resembles a Greek tragedy, where the narrative plot leads to the knot and the fatal denouement. The economy is an accident foretold. Markets are overvalued, but there is one sector that is bubble-free zone, says Sin Fila of Equinox Partners. According to the X22 report, central banks are losing the economic narrative. People are feeling the economic squeeze and will soon demand answers as to why this is happening. It looks like all hell is breaking loose. However, what you are witnessing is the final inhalation of evil before its last breath. They are winding up the bad guys to hang themselves. This is the moment. Unanswered questions. Chronicle of a Death Foretold is a short novel by the masterful Colombian writer Gabriel García Márquez, published in 1981, which reads like a journalistic chronicle. It was included in the list of the 100 best Spanish-language novels of the 20th century. The novel tells the story of the murder of Santiago Nazar, whose perpetrators were the Vicario brothers. It is inspired by a real event that occurred in 1951 in the municipality of Sucre in Colombia. The central question at the heart of the novel is how Santiago Nazar's death was foreseen, but no one could stop it. The book explores the morality of the collective responsibility of the people in the murder. The real mystery is why did the entire town allow the crime to occur without intervening. Similarly, we can ask ourselves how the economic crisis was foreseen, but nobody was able to stop it. What is the collective responsibility of the people in this crisis by voting for inept politicians? And why did everyone allow this crisis to happen without intervening? There are times when silence is accomplice to crime. Age of Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius is about knowledge. As we awaken, realize, and share that knowledge with others, we become a fortress that is not easily controlled. Hence the need for more punitive laws, rules, and mandates. This period of time we are now is chaotic and uncomfortable, but it is what allows us to fully awaken to what has been done to us and prevents us from falling back to sleep. The more punitive they become in trying to contain this awakening, the more people sense what is happening and resist. A strange statement. Charlie Watt presents strange declaration of independence from England or Marbella. In his Saturday Insiders Club video, Charlie Watt, with 15 million subscribers, says he had received a very important document from the White Hats. Document is titled Declaration of the People of the US for World Peace and Prosperity. But something doesn't fit because it is a document issued from the UK, which was the colonizing power from Marbella, Spain, where he lives. The promise was that America would save the world, but they can't even save themselves after the failure of Afghanistan. Don Carlos from Marbella was told 6 years ago, then 2 years ago, that they, the White Hats, were going to shut down the world economy. Then he was told again in November 2019 that they had Trump in power and they were ready and they were going to do it. And in March 2020, they did it. Charlie's business for over a decade has been moving gold, precious metals, and cash around the world from VIPs and governments. He has been working for the White Hats for several years in this capacity, as well as the QFS quantum financial system. Don Carlos was the first to tell us about the quantum voting system in August 2020, and the first to reveal and present the QFS system. Jean Decode, Juan Osabin, and Sacha Stone have all delivered their share of disinformation and admitted as much. Juan Osabin, in particular, is very astute. This whole war is in code. Everyone talks in code all the time, and they send messages back and forth. General Flynn, Sidney Powell, Dan Scavino, Pompeo, Lingwood, Code Monkey, and many others all speak in code. On Thursday night, September 9th, someone got their greedy hands on money they didn't own. Within 18 seconds, QFS and the watchdogs encapsulated the affected quadrant, and within 2 minutes corrected the problem according to Judy Benton. Deflation. Max and Stacy comment in their case report that the Fed says it is fighting deflation through money printing, but the opposite is true. The only thing that is being fooled is social collapse, and that is unquestionably a deflationary event, because deflation, this opinion is in quotes, because deflation, it is to say a decline in the general price level, would be the collapse in society. Deflation is a contraction of the money supply, which can cause a general decline in prices and the economy. In other words, the opposite of inflation. It should be noted that 99% of the economy is in the hands of the richest 0.1% who charge interest on everything. Marx argues. Something is wrong. Toyota US plants are all being shut down. Shortages of semiconductor chips are clipping the assembly plants of General Motors, Ford Motors, and other automakers. Truckers are shutting down commerce, leading to supply shortages for companies ranging from IKEA to McDonald's. The world's elite are buying remote bunkers. The elite are building remote mansions at the end of the world. Billionaires are buying high-tech bunkers in locations far from major population centers. What could they be preparing for? Wealthy people are beginning to understand that they don't want to be the last to stay when the party is over. The Club of Rome predicted a global collapse by 2020 in 1972. The Club of Rome admitted that they fabricated the threat of warming as unifying external threat that could put the blame on humankind, and this would make people sympathetic to the rhetoric of global problems requiring global solutions. The US commemorated on Saturday the 20th anniversary of the attack on the Twin Towers, which changed history, led to an era of foreign interventionism, and forced extreme security measures. The attacks killed nearly 3,000 people and thousands more later died of cancer and other ailments associated with the cleanup operations. Many supporters of the conspiracy theory believe it was an inside job. The building fell quickly and fit neatly into the own footprint. Days before the attack, an extraordinary amount of put options were placed on United Airlines and American Airlines stock. Can jet fuel melt steel beams? YouTube has been filled with critical 9/11 videos. Robert O'Neill, the former Navy SEAL credited with killing Osama bin Laden, says the biggest threat comes not from the outside, but from internal strife and division. Markets. Stocks falls. The New York Stock Exchange fell broadly for a fourth straight day Thursday after signs of higher inflation and another Fed officials this week advocated an early tapering of long-term economic stimulus. Stocks suffer longest losing streak since February. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 indexes end their worst week since June. Small caps were the biggest losers this week. Nasdaq was the least bad horse in the glue factory, threatening to make September the first losing month since January. The dollar fell on Friday as risk sentiment improved on the news that President Biden and China's Xi Jinping held talks on the first time in 7 months. Gold prices fell back below the key $1,800 an ounce mark on Friday, suffering a weekly loss, the first in 5 weeks. Gold prices rose on Friday as the dollar weakened slightly, but uncertainty over the Federal Reserve's next moves to unwind its economic support measures kept gold in a relatively narrow range. Chinese Yuan rises. The Chinese Yuan is heading for its strongest close in nearly 3 months as a call between President Xi Jinping and his US counterpart raised hopes for improved relations between the two nations. Crude oil rises 2%. Crude oil's futures rose on Friday to close higher for the week. Crude oil prices appear to have received a boost. Problems. Treasury warns of default in October. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen issued another warning to lawmakers Wednesday. Raise or suspend the debt ceiling as soon as possible. On September 30th, the government will shut down without a continuing resolution, and on October 15th, the US runs out of money without a debt ceiling increase. Supply chain problems. Producer prices rose solidly in August, generating the largest annual gain in nearly 11 years, suggesting that high inflation is likely to persist for some time as the unrelenting crisis continues to put pressure on supply chains. 3 traders manipulated futures market. Britain's financial regulator said Friday it was investigating 3 traders for allegedly falsifying or creating a misleading futures market at an identified bank during the period when Britain voted to leave the European Union. High gas prices. The price of gas in Europe surpassed $700 per 1,000 cubic meters this Friday, September 10th. So far this year, the price of the fuel has increased more than 116%. Construction of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline is completed. The Russian group Gazprom announced on Friday that the controversial gas pipeline between Russia and Germany is completely finished after having been affected for a long time by geopolitical tensions and threats of sanctions. It will double the supply of natural gas from Russia to Europe, consists of 2 pipelines, and aims to transport some 55 billion cubic meters of gas per year. No Afghan refugee exodus yet, but mass displacement possible. The Taliban victory in Afghanistan has not yet triggered a dramatic exodus of refugees, but the country urgently needs humanitarian aid to avoid economic collapse and major upheaval, the head of the UN Refugee Agency said Friday. Middle East. Syrian army ends nearly 3 months siege of former rebel stronghold. The Syrian government army ended a more than 2.5-month siege of the town of Dira, a rebel stronghold since 2011 that government forces has not entered since 2013. Lebanon agrees new government to tackle economic collapse. Lebanese leaders agreed Friday on a new government headed by Sunni Muslim tycoon Najib Mikati, after a year of wrangling over cabinet seats exacerbated by a devastating economic collapse, paving the way for a resumption of the negotiations with the IMF. Spain asks Pakistan for help in evacuating Afghans. Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez said he is not seeking to impose conditions but to provide humanitarian support. Álvarez arrived Friday in Islamabad to try to facilitate the evacuation across the Pakistan border of more Afghans who have collaborated with Spanish forces. The fire in Sierra Bermeja already affects 6,000 hectares. The fire declared on Wednesday in Sierra Bermeja continues to be active, affecting 6,000 hectares in the municipalities of Estepona, Jubrique, Guenaguacil and Benjavis, from where 1,070 residents have had to be evacuated. The Spanish stock market falls 1.2% and returns to level of the end of last July. The Spanish stock market fell 1.2% this Friday and lost the level of 8,700 points of the end of the last July, affected by the setback of Wall Street and the continuation of the downward trend that began almost a month ago, according to market data. When New York sneezes, Madrid catches a cold. Hundreds of Spaniards demand a suicide prevention plan from the government. Hundreds of people took to the streets of Madrid on Saturday to demand that the government implement a plan for prevention and mental health strategy as soon as possible, as well as to make visible a problem that causes enormous suffering and that claims the lives of 3,600 Spaniards every year. A Basque beach mooring point for Google's new transoceanic cable. With its mooring on Arrietara Beach, the technology company seeks to ensure a flow of 340 terabytes per second between both sides of the Atlantic. It is more than 6,000 kilometers long and is named after the scientist Grace Hooper. New Ibiza. Sandra Ortega's big real estate project. Spain's richest woman is about to begin construction of a hotel and residential complex in Comporta, south of Lisbon, in an area considered to be the last unspoiled spot in southern Europe. The Troya Peninsula has become fashionable among celebrities from all over the world in the last couple of years. Americas. Popocatepetl Volcano erupts and launches smoke with incandescent fragments. Early Saturday morning, the Popocatepetl Volcano erupted, launching smoke and incandescent fragments. In a video published by Sky Alert, lava flows can be seen coming out of its crater, as well as hearing rocks falling. Citizens' Initiative to Guarantee the Right to Water in Mexico. The collective Agua para Todos, Agua para la Vida, Water for All, Water for Life, also proposes to restore basins and subway flows. the Mexican Congress has been delayed for more than 8 years in issuing a general water law. Mexico records 5.59% annual inflation in August. Inflation in Mexico stood at 5.559% annualized in August, its lowest level since March, although it is the 6th month above the financial authorities' target of 2 to 4%. Brazil's inflation in August is the highest in 21 years. Brazil's inflation in August was 0.87%, the highest since year 2000, according to data released by the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics. 250 million credit to support Ecuador's economic reactivation. The Development Bank of Latin America, formerly known as the Andean Development Corporation, approved a credit line of US dollars 250 million for Ecuador. Irregular migration in Chile. A record number of foreigners entered in Chile irregularly this year, and at least 11 people have died in clandestine crossings on the country's northern border. Social organizations consider that in part the government's restrictive policies have generated this situation. Atlantis Expedition. In quotes, only those who are in love with what they are doing are unstoppable, proclaims Alfredo Barragán, the man who, together with 4 other Argentine expedition members, crossed the Atlantic on a log raft under sail and without a rudder in the famous Atlantis Expedition of 1984, and who even today continues to dedicate his life to grandiose projects. Rosario, the Argentine district most terrorized by criminal groups. On Monday, 6 people were murdered in Rosario, a city in the province of Santa Fe. All of them were executed at different times and in the same way, surprised by a burst of bullets. Dozens of people in rural villages in Colombia. The inhabitants of Banco de Arena, less than an hour from Cúcuta, have seen for decades how they have been besieged in their own homes by the violence caused by the confrontation between armed actors. Demonstration against police impunity in Bogotá. Relatives and friends of the 11 people who were shot to death a year ago in Colombia during protests against the police brutality demonstrated Thursday in Bogotá, demanding justice. 12 months have passed and only 4 officers have been charged for the events, and they have not even been removed from service. Protest against hunger in Limba. A cry for help from Lima's soup kitchens in the face of an increase in the number of poor families. Against food waste and to give thousands of families something to put in their mouths. The protest took place in Lima in front of the Gran Mercado Mayorista of the Peruvian capital. It was led by the heads and volunteers of soup kitchens. They demand that the mayor's office of Lima authorize them to collect discarded food still in good condition. Abimael Guzmán, Shining Path leader, dies. Manuel Rubén Abimael Guzmán Reynoso, leader of the terrorist group Shining Path, died this Saturday o Sendero Luminoso in Spanish, died this Saturday at the age of 86 years, while serving a life sentence in the maximum security prison of the Callao Naval Base, Peru. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.